Welcome back to Restless.
We just had a pre-recording conversation on the use of the word zany, which has been brought up several times.
It has.
Father Joseph wants to recover his zane.
I am full of zane.
You can't unlive zany.
I mean, our original description of this show was 4 zany young adults.
It's still the description.
It's still perhaps
It
the
is?
description.
No, there's a couple
much
of
to people's dismay, one might say.
I don't consider myself zany. I think I've moved past. We have been doing this 4 years. I think I've moved past zane.
Well, I've hit 40.
You
so I
were
don't know if,
never
like,
zany.
Can 40-year-olds be zany? Yeah, that's true. You never had zane.
I'm filled with joy.
You're very optimistic. I'll say that much.
I am optimistic.
We'll see if you're optimistic after this episode because you may be depressed.
Yeah.
You might be depressed because we often think that we are holier than we are. That's a real spiritual issue because a lot of Christians are like, well, I go to Mass, I pray a little bit here and there, so I'm going straight to heaven. But St. Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross teach us that there's actual different stages in the spiritual life, whether or not you advance or don't advance. And are you familiar with these stages? Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, from you.
If you go on, then I may
Okay.
know.
I guess we'll do a recap of these stages.
Well, it's a purgative way and the dark night of soul and the unitive way and such and so on.
And such and
forth.
so on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so John of the Cross breaks it down in 3 stages. Teresa of Avila breaks it down to 7 stages. I was really a big fan of John of the Cross, but now I'm like leaning towards Teresa. I think they're a little clearer. But so here's kind of like, we'll go with Teresa first. Teresa is kind of good. So the first stage she talks about is eliminating mortal sin out of your life and kind of starting a prayer life, but it's still kind of sporadic. You're praying here and there, but like still kind of fall into mortal sin. But you're basically like, you want to serve the Lord. There's kind of a fundamental like, yeah, I love Jesus. Like let's do this thing. So there's that. But then you got to move into the second stage. The second stage is eliminating deliberate venial sins, things that you're like, I know it's not a mortal sin, so I can do it. Which sometimes we fall into that, right? Being like, I love gluttony. We're recording this the week of Thanksgiving, and gosh, on Thursday, probably all of us will fall into that sin.
There's feasting.
You could definitely use the calories, Father Joseph. So
It takes a lot of hard work to keep this thin figure, okay?
you're very active, so you need the calories.
I do.
To counter.
I do.
I think we did an episode on feasting versus gluttony.
We did.
A long time ago.
We did a long time ago.
So go listen to that.
Back when Paul was zany.
No, I wasn't ever zany, according to Lauren. But in any case, so go listen to that.
So anyways, that's the second stage.
I would think more of the venial sins in that case would be like talking bad about somebody behind their back, inventing, gossip.
Yeah, and this is kind of like having venial sins that you kind of like really cherish in your heart. Kind of like, I really like this sin.
And do you think people are aware of it, or they don't know it's just kind of part of their nature? Because that's what I would think.
Well, that's the thing. People make excuses. Oh, it's just who I am.
Okay.
Instead of saying I'm going to work on this, it's just, oh well, It's how
Well,
God
it might be. Maybe you should change it.
Right, exactly. We do have certain vices that all of us are more attracted to than others. But around this time too, in the second stage, you start to have a very simple prayer life, but a regular prayer life. Maybe it's 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, and that's your prayer life. Okay, great, that's good. But then the third stage, she says, is a lot more intense than that, and that's you're eliminating not only deliberate venial sins, but venial sins that happen accidentally. You start to notice that there's a lot of times we fall into sin and we don't mean to, right? We do start talking about someone behind their back and we don't intend to do that, or maybe we do overeat accidentally, but it's not something that we cherish, and it's something that we feel immediately bad about. And we want to eliminate out of our life. We kind of really make a concerted effort to say, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So and then our prayer life at that time becomes much deeper. We're pretty serious about it. Like, okay, like I'm committed 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, whatever it is, daily rosary, mass, whatever. That's, I think, the third stage. But then you think, okay, well, I'm great, right? You reach the third stage, you think you're perfect. No, there's 4 more to go.
Yeah.
And be way harder. So the fourth stage then is you're not only eliminating venial sin, but you're trying to eliminate imperfections. And what's the difference between an imperfection and a sin? Quiz question for you.
Imperfection is probably not something it's a sin, but it's not the best it could be. Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're choosing the less perfect option. So it's not a sin if I don't pray a second rosary today and I listen to, country music instead. It's not a sin, but it's the most perfect option. No, right? I mean, I should be fasting today, but there's donuts in the break room, so I can have one. Well, you can. It's not a sin. It's also not the most perfect option. So that's really what you're striving for is to eliminate imperfections in your life. And that can be a real challenge. And at this point, you're hungering for prayer. You're desiring prayer. It's not just like a routine, but it's like, I crave prayer. which is awesome to get to that stage. So fifth stage, then you're not only I think this is the one where most people trip up, to be honest, because you're not only eliminating imperfections, you're eliminating your attachments. That's tough, right? That you would be totally at peace if your house burned down tonight. You'd be totally at peace if your entire family got murdered.
Is that really the meaning? It's totally at peace.
Yeah, because you can still love these things. You can love your family, you can love your possessions, you love your activities. But if you break your leg and can never play frisbee ever again,
right,
would you be at peace?
Well, there would certainly be a mourning, right? Is that permitted?
Yeah. Oh,
but like your life isn't over, right?
Yeah, a mourning, but a mourning with the undertow of, Lord, if this is your will, I will it too.
Well, I would say isn't that the same thing when a lot of men choose to become priests? They sort of go through a mourning period of like not having a wife and kids, right? But you're choosing the supernatural,
I guess so.
The supernatural option, so to speak, doing God's will, right? So I wouldn't say that's. I would say it's a natural thing, right? And I guess maybe just to Lauren's point, when you think about like mourning, there's emotions, right? And so emotions we don't necessarily have agency over all the time,
right?
Right? You see something sad, it's not like you can necessarily like hold. You could hold back your cry, but like you might.
Right. You can't say to someone, just don't cry, just don't be sad.
Right. Yeah. So there's like there's an emotive element to that. So, yeah.
At the same time, as you become more ordered as a human person and advance in the spiritual life, your emotions come under greater control of your reason.
Yeah.
So yes, it's true, but it's also true that you'll start to rejoice over the right stuff and be sad over the right stuff, right? I'm sad because somebody has turned away from the Lord. I'm not sad because my guitar got broken.
Right.
Right. So I mean that's kind of a big difference there.
Okay.
And in your prayer life in this time, fifth stage is contemplation. God's starting to give you the gift of just the prayer of quiet, just being in His presence, experiencing His love, just silence without thoughts, without words. Very beautiful. But then comes the sixth stage. The sixth stage is now the thing you're giving up is you're giving up even consolations in prayer and like inspirations of faith.
What does that mean?
Your prayer is completely dark. Your faith is completely cold. You don't feel God's presence. You don't sense His presence. You are assailed with doubts and temptations, because that's the last thing to give up is the sweetness of heaven, which we have foretastes of here. And this is the prayer of dark. This is a dark prayer, and this is what would correspond to John the Cross's dark night of the soul, entering to this sixth stage. But then after you get through the sixth stage, the seventh stage is union with God.
Okay.
In this life or the next?
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize if you don't go through the 7 stages here, you go through them in purgatory.
That was my next question.
So if you're only in this stage 2 and you die, you still got a bunch of stages to get through.
Yeah.
God's got to be your all in all. Or there's no other loves that rival it. And that's why I think a lot of good Christians are in the second and third stage, and that's where they stop. Because God asks you to give up a lot. Your attachments, really? Your imperfections, really? Like, that's... When I look at my life, I'm shocked at how far down I am.
Which stage are you in?
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I don't know. I mean, and I wonder, like, do you think it's beneficial for Christians to ask themselves that question, or is it better to just kind of like not?
No,
that?
It definitely is.
You think so?
Definitely, yeah.
I think a healthy amount, but you also, this is heavy, right? So
this is
you
very
also,
heavy. Yeah,
but I think
heavy.
it could be a source of discouragement,
or a source of pride,
or a source of pride. Yeah, fine. Yeah, either way.
Look at me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're like on stage 1 if that's how you see this.
True, that's true. So the pride shows that you're not as far as you think you are. But yeah, the discouragement. I think most Christians stop at stage 2 or 3. I would probably be maybe on 3, trying to work towards 4.
But if you have, let's say, some contemplative prayer, does that mean you can enter into like stage 5, and then maybe you go back to stage 3? It's like your normal.
Yeah, but that's one thing about the stages. You can go forward and backward. So you could actually be very advanced, and then through temptation or something, fall back. And also, God can take you very far, very fast.
Yeah. Or He'll show you, I think, or bring you further.
Yeah.
But then you have to actually keep living.
Keep it
out
up. Right.
That's so much harder.
But there are people that have had such thorough conversions that they give up like all their mortal sin, all their venial sin, all in like one weekend.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember this one guy in college. I was with a priestly discernment group in college, which was awesome. There's 70 guys in this group, and some were all across the spectrum of spirituality. Some guys never prayed and struggled with that. Some guys were like deep into contemplation. And there's this one guy, we were talking one time about our commitments at a group meeting, and he's like, I think everyone should commit to 2 hours of prayer a day. And everyone else is like, whoa, whoa, we got to study. We got to work out. We got to eat lunch. We got to hang out with friends and girls too. But and he was just very advanced in the spiritual life, and he thought everyone else should be as advanced as he was.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard for him to understand that no, some people are actually still just starting out, and like 15 minutes is a big accomplishment for somebody.
When you say prayer, what do you mean?
He wanted 2 full hours in front of the Blessed Sacrament every day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It just is.
That is a lot. I mean, right now I do about probably 3 hours of prayer a day, counting Mass and liturgy hours and the full rosary. But certainly I could never do that in college. You have to work your way up to it. And I can really only do it because I'm a priest, and that's kind of my full-time job, is to pray for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I worked at 9 to 5, I certainly wouldn't have that time.
9 to 5. Who works 9 to 5? Anyway, sorry.
So where do you think you are on the spiritual spectrum?
I don't know. Not very high.
I think I'm working on the imperfect.
Choosing the more perfect option.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
'Cause I think I'm aware of it, right?
Yeah.
And then I have contemplative prayer.
Beautiful.
That's a blessing from the Hom community from Spain.
Nice.
And they say it, people that do exercise with us, this grace is given by God.
Yeah.
So
it is a grace. That's the thing. It's not
not
a technique per se.
So yeah, but working on consistent prayer time of contemplation every day.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I go, like I could say last night, I chose to go to the chapel after we had a meeting at the parish instead of going to my apartment where I knew a roommate had people over and I could have seen them and socialized. But I said, I haven't done my prayer time today. So I did it, and I felt God immediately.
Great.
And it was very peaceful. It's
Nice.
not always like that, right? Sometimes it's very distracting, or I'm like, I gotta stay because I know I should, but it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I just,
Feel
I
like
mean, I don't know
obligated
for sure,
almost.
but it seemed to me like I made the right choice there, and then God, I don't know, rewarded me.
Yeah,
gave me
definitely. I
grace
think so.
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I still got to see a friend at the end of it anyway.
Oh, good.
This is great.
Good.
I love when God does that.
I found that God will reward sacrifices, particularly like when I was in college and seminary, we do a lot of like 40 hours adoration. And so I would always, let's take the 2 a.m. slot. And it's tough dragging. I don't know if you've ever done that.
I've never
Had to-
taken
had
one
to
of those.
drag
I
yourself out of
I
bed.
check the Holy Spirit,
I've done it
sign
once, I
up.
think.
Liz Sweeney covers it. There's always a few people that take it.
And it's tough, but I'll tell you, that's been some of the best times of prayer I've ever had. And I think God
that's
blesses
great.
the sacrifice. And I'll tell you, it also feels like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
That hour goes
I do
so
like that too.
fast.
What,
yeah.
in the morning? Or in the
Yeah,
early
like 2
morning?
o'clock in the morning, early morning, yeah.
I remember I've done it early and it didn't feel particularly fast.
No?
No, it's okay though.
You weren't praying
Well, have
well.
you done contemplative prayer?
No, I'm just kidding.
What, me?
Yeah, where you just
In doses.
you just like offer it up as contemplative prayer time.
Well,
I'm
it's
here
like-
for
I
you.
think holy hours are so
Try
important.
to just shut it down.
Holy hours are important because for me, like I need, like especially if we go after work, let's say, like I need like a half an hour just to let my brain unwind.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the ability to just like shut off my thoughts.
Yeah.
But I just use that as like, well, if I hadn't gone to adoration, then I wouldn't have that unwind time at all.
Yeah.
I would just keep moving.
I
keep
think
moving
for
and
me,
processing.
I am the
It's
same
part
way.
of my prayer because I feel the peace. I still have the thoughts of my day. They're going, but I'm at peace. And oftentimes there's like a body kind of shut down motion, right? So my body is shutting down a bit, even though my mind is still going. So
Mhm.
I think from my experience of doing this for a few years, that is still contemplation.
Mm.
And maybe there's like a deeper stage where I'm not there yet. I just helped with the sisters at their most recent retreat in Connecticut. And they talked about how living more silence helps your prayer time, right? When you are bombarded with noise and news and social media and whatever, stress at work, right? Like that will impact your prayer time.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can add in silence, right? Maybe there's no radio in the car or something, right? It will help you. So All I'm saying is, I think that's part of prayer too, but we could all probably improve,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
definitely.
Like,
Unless you're in the
yeah.
7th stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not, and you're not. So
The Eastern
No.
Catholics have a kind of an approach to things. So I think like Eastern Catholic, Orthodox too, but just talking about Catholics, they have a lot of, especially the great fasts. It's like way more onerous than like the
oh,
Roman
yeah.
Catholic
Oh my
fast,
gosh, it is.
and there's a lot of restrictions. And they say that you try to, they like you're supposed to follow them, but you do fail a lot. It's just hard, especially in like modern Western world to like not have dairy. It's like
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
Right, it's very hard. But they say that you should try to live. Really the point of it is to not follow it, like not get discouraged if you break one of the rules. It's just here's what the monks do, and try to be as close to them as you can.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit different perspective. And like, okay, here's the rules that we need to follow. Like, okay, we should do an hour of adoration every week, every day, whatever it is. But it's like, well, then that can also become like checking the box. It enters into that, like maybe even moving toward pride, right? Like, well, I did my holy hour today. Look how good I'm good.
And that's an important thing about advancing in the spiritual life is that we can't do it on our own without God's grace. So it's not like I'm going to strive for the 6th mansion today. I'm just going to, well, you can't do that. You have to go through the whole journey, which means that you can't go faster than God is willing to take you.
Right. And I guess, is there a concept that people get to a stage and then go backwards?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You can definitely, regress in the spiritual life.
Yeah.
But so my question for you is, do you want to advance? And if so, are you daunted by the things that God is asking you to give up?
Yes.
I'd say
yeah.
yes.
Definitely for me,
and
Yes,
yeah.
and
yes.
yes, yeah.
For me.
Yes and yes, yeah.
I'm constantly having to discern, what are the things that God is asking me to give up for Him. And one of the things for me is, and not so much possessions. I don't really care about my possessions. I mean, maybe some of them, but like for the most part, not really. It's more like relationships. Like I really cherish friendships. And so sometimes I find myself in prayer thinking about, oh, the next time I get to hang out with this friend is this Saturday, and I can't wait. And and I'm like, no, I need to be in prayer. That's my attachment. One of my attachments that.
Yeah, I think I have that too. Relationship thoughts and interactions, and like lots of review too of moments. Even like could be good moments, like funny moments, funny interactions, right? Just reliving. And then also like the projecting.
Yeah.
Or thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you think that all Catholics are called to the heights of the spiritual life? Like, are all Catholics called to the 7th stage of union with God?
No. Not in
Well,
this life.
Yeah, not.
I don't
not
think
living.
some people
I
have
think-
the capacity.
But
Really?
we are provided.
Really.
Like God will make
I mean,
us.
I guess God's grace could do anything though.
But we'll be as holy as we need to be, right, to get to heaven.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think God sometimes thwarts our efforts for holiness because it's for the greater glory of His kingdom?
Explain that.
Like for example, there's a young man in my parish who is just this wild teenager. I mean, just like he's not done anything terrible yet because he's 13. But like his trajectory, like he hates going to mass, hates anything religious whatsoever. And his parents drag him there all the time. And I had a conversation with his mom the other day, and his mom was like, yeah, I don't know what's up with, why does like the rest of the family so on fire with Christ? I don't know why he's so rebellious. And the thought occurred to me, someday Anthony might have a really awesome testimony. If I'm seriously, like if he goes way out overboard, and I don't know what he's gonna do, go to drugs, get in jail, like whatever, and but he's gonna come back to Christ. And think about the testimony he's gonna be able to say. He's like, yeah, I was that 13-year-old teenager who hated going to mass, whatever, and I hated all of this stuff, and I went way off board, and look at God's mercy. So I wonder sometimes if in order to minister better to others, God allows us to only be at the level that we're supposed to be. When I was in college, I did know a guy who was very, very advanced in the spiritual life. He was a dear friend of mine. He's now a priest in Arlington, Virginia. But the one thing that drove me a little bit crazy with him is because he had such a refined charity that I never knew if we were actually friends. And that actually drove me crazy.
Oh, because he was just
he
nice.
was kind to everyone, and he was charitable to everyone. He would do like the exact same thing for me as he would for some Joe Schmo on the street. And I was like, are we friends? Like, are you just treating me with charity because I'm just like, and that was a struggle for me. By contrast, I'm not that way. And so like I treat friends very differently than I treat the person on the street, which I agree is a flaw. But at the same time, it might really minister to others to have a spiritual friend that's like, okay, yeah, I really am do care
Like
about your
genuine,
soul because I love you, not just like I love
Yeah.
everybody. I love you, and I want to like get you to holiness. But that could be my flaw that's ministering to you. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Lord always uses bad for good, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we always have to remember that. It's not as though we should target the bad, though. Right? Like, it's
Right, I'm not
not
gonna
that
be
there's a
lukewarm
difference.
purposely.
There's a difference between an imperfection and like trying to be
Giving
perfect.
up.
Right. Yeah. Or trying to be imperfect.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say there's a difference there. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone has got their role within the kingdom, and we don't quite understand that, and that's part of the great mystery of humanity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the humanity is a gift to us.
Mhm.
Having this like little piece of the logos within us is like it's a gift, but it's also a burden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because we have free will. So like a squirrel doesn't have free will. Right? A squirrel's gonna go and it's gonna go find nuts and bury them in the ground and then go up the tree
Instinct,
and then
yeah.
eat the nuts and then come back down from the tree and go bury that. And he doesn't get Sunday off. Right? Like squirrel's gonna work on
True.
Sundays.
True.
You know, so
Sinful squirrels.
right. And so but we do. We can choose to not work on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? We
Yeah.
have it, but it's also what comes with that is this tremendous burden.
Yeah.
And we have to also bear the burden of others too.
Mm.
Right? We have to bear the burden of people having the freedom to sin against us.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have to accommodate that.
Mm.
And so it's really hard to move up these steps because we're not deterministic. We're not being
Right,
pushed
yeah.
into it. We have to
It's all grace, but we have to cooperate.
Yeah, we have to give the gift of grace and then the response of faith
Yeah.
to actually respond to that. And yeah, and it's hard.
I would think too, like the people that I would want to spend time with are not the people on the 7th level, but the people who are just one level ahead of me.
Right, yeah.
I
there's
think
something to
I
that,
think
yeah.
because then first of all I can see in them some real potential for me. Like
Mhm,
wow, you're not like totally so far removed that there's like I give up. There's no hope.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and going back to, does God call everyone to the 7th level in this life? Just thinking about it more. Maybe he does, but because of original sin, we're just limited, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we could probably all think of people who are stage 1, totally ruled by their emotions.
Oh yeah.
And
Work with teenagers every day.
they're, but adults, grown
And
adults,
adults
right?
too, yeah.
Where it's not happening.
Yeah.
But without original sin, it would have, right?
Yeah. That'd be nice.
And then obviously our free will in choosing sin, being in a state of mortal sin, right? Which is pretty common.
Sadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it here, if you don't advance to the 7th stage here, you have to advance to the 7th stage in purgatory. So which one would be preferable?
Here. Absolutely.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Don't like tons of saints say that?
Many saints have said that. I
Yeah.
find it hard to conceptualize.
That it's better to do your
about this?
purgatory here than in purgatory.
Yes. Yeah.
This life is like 3 days, and that's it. And then we have all of eternity in heaven. So if this life is just all suffering, it's still so short.
That's true.
We don't know how long our purgatory is, right? And once we see the face of God, we just long for him, right? That's the deepest sorrow in purgatory.
Well, when they asked that the 3 visionaries of Fatima asked Our Lady, what happened to so and so who died? She said she was 18 years old. She said she would be in purgatory until the end of the world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
18 years old.
It's crazy to.
What does she do?
I know.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to be in purgatory, but it's scary to think about what suffering would I have to endure, right? To
Mhm.
bypass purgatory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the challenging things God asks us to do, because his will is always hard, right? I mean, if you look at the lives of the saints.
Yeah.
But if you're so united with him, then maybe it's
It
not
comes-
hard.
yeah,
And I'm just like
where there's
few
love.
levels back, so it seems hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the closer you do get, the more grace you get to handle the crosses that come with the giving up of everything. Do you guys think you've ever met anybody in like the super advanced stages of the spiritual life?
Probably Marimi. She's the Mother Superior of the Ham community.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think maybe on occasion. A couple of people come to mind. Had the great blessing of meeting a woman who I'm going to try to get on Restless in the future named Cindy Russo, who came to my parish a couple of weeks ago. to.
Padre Pio.
Yeah, she brought the chalice.
Oh,
I got
yeah,
to
yeah.
celebrate mass with a chalice of Padre Pio
Oh, wow.
and put on his glove, which was pretty cool.
Mhm.
But she was just perhaps one of the humblest people I've ever met, and it was completely like
Telltale sign
there's
that she's
not a
holy.
single ego in her. It was just all self-effacing humor, and just she didn't even draw any attention to herself. It was all God, Padre Pio, and the person she's right in front of, and that was really beautiful. That like she would give full attention to every single person. I was like, that's really quite charitable.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Probably not.
I think
That's somebody
I think
that's
it's rare.
in the unitive way.
I do think it's rare.
It's rare. Yeah.
It's rare.
Mm.
But what a gift it is.
I would like to.
I would like to as well. Well, we'll arrange
Well,
that.
you should
Paul.
get there. You should get there so I can meet. So I know you.
If I can just get one step further, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, we really shouldn't. I don't think we should shoot so low. It's like when Catholics are like, oh well, I just hope to make it to purgatory. Yeah, but shoot that low and you miss.
I know.
Shoot
not
for
good.
heaven.
I
Shoot
don't
to be a
know.
great saint, and then
Yeah. Well, I think with this, I think it's you realize it's like know what level you're in and try to get to the next level, right?
So speaking of levels, we
Mhm.
go to the levels of heaven, right?
Mm.
And let's say God's will for you is that you're like up here and God is here. But through your free will and the choice that you make in your life, you're only down here in heaven. So you're farther away from God.
Mm.
Do you think we will know what our potential was and what God actually intended for us in heaven?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's what I said too. But
Probably.
now I've been wondering, like, God could keep that from us almost as like to spare us that despair, right? Because there is no
Mm.
despair in heaven.
No.
But you could possibly know it right at your judgment,
Yeah, that's true.
but then
That's true.
you're still like all peace, happy.
Well, you would
whatever,
use that.
in heaven.
You would use that as a my supposition would be that would be used because now you could, if you know that, then you could in heaven you could pray for the people that should be at a higher level. That could attain a higher level, right? Something like that.
Like pray for the other people in heaven.
No, and
Or for the people
on
on
Earth, yeah,
Yeah, I guess so.
something like
I guess
that.
so.
Because you have full knowledge in heaven, right?
By full, I mean, I don't know if you have full knowledge of everything. Like, would you know the sins of the people that are on Earth? I'm not sure if you would.
Well, you would understand that my interpretation, maybe I'm wrong, but my interpretation was that you would the beatific vision would be that you would understand the nature of God in a way that
As
you would
best as you can, as
understand
best as you can
why
conceptualize.
he
Yeah.
chose to the way that he chose to give himself glory by creating humans with free will such that they would fall, such that they would need
Yeah.
a savior, right?
That is a
that
mystery.
is the
That
mystery,
is a
right?
mystery.
That's
Yeah,
it.
That's a tough one, right?
Right? Oh, happy fault of Adam. Why?
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Sure.
we don't have to worry about it because it's like, well, our job is not to be concerned with that. It's to like that's the way God chose to give himself glory, and that's like we have to bear the repercussions of that.
Mm.
Right? So it's like we don't if
And-
we don't
and-
understand that doesn't mean we shouldn't like do it.
And oddly enough, perhaps God gives himself glory in making his creatures not as holy as they want to be, or have to struggle greatly to reach the holiness that they want to be.
Well, through the struggle, you experience mercy,
Right.
and maybe
exactly.
mercy
So
is greater than
mercy's greater than
comfort.
yeah, or even achieving it on our own. I mean, that's the question, right? Is it better to never have sinned and stay holy, or to have sinned and repented and to be holy? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, we
either.
don't know. Yeah, that's maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, of course, our Blessed Mother, is sinless and holy. But I don't know.
She's kind of 101.
She is one of one. She's one of one. But there are also a lot of very.
Well, she was
other
born. You could say
innocent-
Adam and Eve were created
Yeah, true. Without
sinless.
sin, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, others, I think, maybe not totally sinless, but other people who have preserved. For example, I think of Saint Aloysius Gonzaga.
Mm.
Who took a vow of chastity at 11. I don't know how you know what chastity is when you're 11, but and then did penance for the rest of his life. And there's a beautiful the collect for his mass is so beautiful. Is that that Saint Aloysius combined perfect innocence of life with a spirit of penance. May we who have not followed in his example of innocence follow in his example of penance.
Hmm.
Kind of a beautiful thought, but God certainly preserved him from a great deal versus St. Augustine.
Well, yeah.
Or so many of these other saints who were not preserved but still reached the heights of holiness through mercy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, so both are examples of how God chooses to give himself glory.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so
innocence or mercy.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems as though we shouldn't. Seems as though we should strive for holiness in the ways that we can, and plus one.
Yeah.
It's right. It's like the old saying. It's like young adult is like my age. Young adult cutoff is like my age plus one.
Yes.
It's like you should be as holy as you can be.
I'm officially out.
Right. Well,
40.
Well, plus one. 41 is cutoff.
No, that's not.
No,
no,
I'm kidding.
I've reached the age.
No, but it's like you should be as holy as you can in plus one. It's like
Yeah.
it's the same thing when you're like want to achieve run a marathon. You don't run 26 miles day one.
I'm not going to get stage 7 tomorrow.
Right.
But if I can get stage 4 tomorrow and start working on that one.
Yeah.
That's the goal, indeed.
Yeah.
Others may be holier than I, that I may become as holy as you want me to be, O Lord. In that beautiful prayer, litany of humility. So, thanks for joining us on this episode of Restless. You can find us on Veritas Catholic Network, 1350 AM and 103.9 FM, and wherever you get your podcast, tune in, subscribe. And for your challenge of the day, strive for holiness. Realize that we are all called to eventually union with God in heaven, certainly, and here to advance as far as God allows us to advance. And that means sometimes giving up things that are not God, obstacles to that, and to deepen our prayer life where he may give us the gift of contemplation and intimate union with him, because he loves us and wants us to become like him.
Mm.
Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your Restless episodes that you ever listen to.
Thanks, Father. I wonder if the last sentence